Hi everyone, I'm Dr. Z, and we're going to be learning about autism. The understanding of autism has evolved dramatically from the early clinical observations to today's neurodiversity informed approaches. Autism in the 1950s actually referred to excessive hallucinations and fantasies in infants, whereas autism in the 1970s referred to a complete lack of an unconscious symbolic life and lacking theory of mind. So the meaning of the word autism was then radically reformulated from a description of someone who fantasized excessively to someone who didn't fantasize at all. A complete 180 change. So it's no wonder why people are so confused even today about what is autism. The earliest clinical documentation that I found of what would have been considered autism today, most likely, was in the 1800s by a doctor named Samuel Gridley Howe. And he was a Harvard graduate medical doctor who famously founded the Perkins School for the Blind in Massachusetts. And he was pioneering radical approaches to educating individuals with disabilities. I feel like I aspire to be a modern day Dr. Samuel Howe. His radical idea at that time in the 1800s was that people who are blind can and should be educated. And he believed in the improvability of people, including people who had physical impairments. And his school was the success. Blind children were reading, writing, appreciating poetry, playing music, doing math. Not everyone likes math, but it is a great thing to be able to do. But the interesting part about this is that in his early accounts, he actually started to establish what would be considered autistic traits in his case studies. There were asynchronous abilities that he was finding, and he was struggling to label these individuals because the data that he was collecting on them was failing to capture their unique capabilities. For example, he had a case study on someone named Billy. And Billy exhibited echolalia, which we'll talk about. He would be repeating words like milking the cows out loud, but he could understand nonverbal cues. He was rated 4 out of 10 for counting, 6 out of 10 for language, but then 12 out of 10 for musical ability. That was Billy, who had a unique profile. Then there was case number 25, where this person could read accurately, but completely lacked comprehension of what they were reading. So they could read that page 1,000 times without getting the slightest idea of the meaning. And then there were documented extraordinary talents in his case studies as well, where there was case number 360, and this person exhibited an extraordinary degree of activity in number combinations. He could quickly calculate seconds in one's age. He could calculate the number of seconds from the number of years. That's pretty incredible. And then there were cases 175 and cases 192, and they were able to count up to 20,000 and perform simple arithmetic operations with great more agility and facility than any average normal person. So this doctor was taking accounts and doing case studies on people where he was seeing like what they would be considered very, very low IQ. They had actual learning disabilities, but they had such profound capabilities in other ways. And I think that's really an incredible way to look at autism in a bigger picture, in a more fuller picture, because today we focus mainly on pathology and we focus mainly on disability, but there's always more to the picture. I want to talk about Dr. Grunya. And she is a Ukrainian/Russian psychiatrist who published detailed observations of 6 boys, what she then termed schizoid psychopathy. So Dr. Grunya is a psychiatrist who actually is the first person to create the cohort of traits that is now used to describe what autism is today. She created her work in 1925, which predated Kanner and Asperger by almost 2 decades. And she was the first person to create the list of traits, and her key observations included social withdrawal and difficulty forming connections, pronounced sensory activities, motor clumsiness and coordination issues, intense special interest, and exceptional memory capabilities. At that time, she termed this schizoid psychopathy, but today it's now recognized as autism.